Welcome, traveler, to part 4 of my Twitch bot tutorial series. In part 3, we set up our project, and today we're going to make a working bot. There's going to be a lot of code shown in this video, but really, once you understand the structure, AI can help write the rest. First, let's recap. If you made it through the previous videos in this series, we have completed several major steps. Registered our bot, created an app access token with no scopes. It's also good to note it doesn't need to be refreshed. We created a user access token with the appropriate scopes, and this one does require a refresh. And in part 5, I'll show you how to do it automatically. And then we initiated our project, created a repository on Git, deployed our project shell on render. We also used a lot of tools already and will continue to do so throughout this project. Here's a reminder of what we're trying to build. We need a bot that receives information from Twitch but also talks back. We will not be creating our database yet. That'll be part 5. For now, we will hard code our variables. I always like to start with an MVP that tests my architecture. In general, this design is meant for expansion and easy testing, so if you're confused on some of the key decisions, that's probably why. First, we're going to split our program into 7 focus files. Our server will start the whole process and call Twitch service, which will be the boss of our webhook. Our Twitch config file will create a config object that notes who we are and our tokens, etc. from video 2. Then we will use the config to connect via the connection manager. The inbound action manager will handle messages coming in from Twitch, and the outbound manager will allow us to talk back. Simple. In a later video, we will make a 7th file that will auto-refresh our tokens and handle disconnects. The end result is viewers will be able to type anything in chat and the bot will reply wolf. A fun tidbit, this pattern should work for more than just Twitch. For my advanced users, here are some things to note that really helped me out. I'm using automated documentation with JS docs. I planned out where I would need some helper methods, specifically on demand scripts, global and specific util files. And finally, I automated my test-driven development using Jest. Technically, this completes the structure and you can try and build on your own. But if you get stuck, I will now start walking through the code blocks. Server.js is what render calls first, and it will initialize the project, the Express server, and the Twitch integration. You'll notice this is a little different from what we did in video 2. We're replacing all that placeholder nonsense with our real setup here. So first, we're working on imports. Got my global utils, my Express server, working on cores, loading from my environment variables, and then from our Twitch service, we have that initialized Twitch integration. So this is more boilerplate code for codes configuration, but important to note where the green box is, you're going to replace that with where your server is going to send messages from, and then your Twitch channel where your Twitch is going to receive messages to, and then that'll allow all the security and whatnot to work. The last part of the server file is just calling that Twitch init function, and then you're starting your Express server, and then everything else is just helping you troubleshoot when you actually take a look at your logs. Okay, that wraps up server.js. Let's talk about your Twitch service file. Again, you'll need some more imports, and then I like to do my helper functions first in each file. And so here's just a helper function, very boilerplate for mounting your webhook. Your primary function in this file is going to be that Twitch init. So it's what we called before, but here's the actual code for it. The important parts of this one are if you already have an event subscription, you don't need to do it again, and they persist for a very long time. So you'll rarely need to resubscribe unless you change what you're subscribing to. And then if you don't have an active events subscription, then you do need to subscribe to chat, and then we're calling a different helper method there. So yeah, the Twitch service file is super simple. Let's talk about another super simple file, which is going to be your Twitch config. The many different ways that you can create this, but the basics of it is you need a get Twitch config that's going to return a bot with all of these different user variables and then a public base URL. Something we didn't talk about in earlier videos is your user ID. You actually need a number here, not a username. Here's a helper method to get your ID via your username. So if you have a Twitch username, you can use this helper method to plug it in using a script. You can run it and then it'll spit back out from Twitch your ID. And that's it for config. Honestly, it's just storing the variable so you can call it later. Super simple. Let's get into a slightly harder file, which is your connection manager. In general, the whole file is just helper functions. The first one is your subscribed chat. This, you can get a lot of the examples and information on how to write this one directly out of the Twitch docs. But something I want to highlight is the broadcaster user ID and the user ID of your bot are both required here. If you don't have both, if you try and do just one or the other, it will not work. So, I did the sweat for you, so you don't have to. You're welcome. So the second helper function in this file is verify event subconnection. Again, this is just a helper method that you call to make sure that you actually have an active event sub connection. Very boilerplate, easy to get ChatGPT to write this one for you. The next one's a little bit harder. That's the inbound action manager. Okay, so one of the first things you need to do is be able to validate your Twitch signature and make sure that any incoming event sub request is from Twitch using the shared secret. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. The documentation on the Twitch website isn't too bad for this one, and ChatGPT can help you write it. You might have to make some decisions about your code. So I didn't actually put the code here, but it's not a difficult method to write. But the harder part is actually processing those inbound events. And you can do this in a couple of different ways, but for sure you need to validate that signature. And then also, sometimes Twitch is going to send you challenges. You need to receive them and respond back, and you must do it in plain text. And some, depending on what you're coding in, you may have to force a system to send that in plain text. And trust me, this was a big defect in my code and it took a long time to figure it out, but that's what it is. You can also test challenges via the CLI, which I can do another video on that if you guys want to, but that was a very helpful way to test that I was actually responding correctly to challenges. And then the last part of this file is the fun part. So when you get a channel.chat.message, you can consume it and reply wolf. To check here for troubleshooting is your tokens. Make sure they're not expired. If it's a user access token or if it's an app access that you're concerned about, make sure that you have your right bot, your right secret, and all of the setup. And now time for our final file, which is an outbound, and in a way it's a helper as well. And this is the last file, which really just has this one method in it for now until we expand it, which is send chat. It's going to take in a message and that config item that you had from before. It's a pretty boilerplate uh, method, and ChatGPT can help you customize it. Once you're done with that final file, you can update your repository, redeploy on your server, and then start testing live. Send a message in your chat, and then watch your logs and troubleshoot with AI. Congrats! You're all set to talk to Twitch. I will see you in the next video where we auto refresh the tokens so your bot keeps working past 4 hours. Don't forget to follow, join, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.